I was on the site CG Trader the other day, and I saw that an artist had posted a couple of models for Oola statues that you could purchase and print on your own. So I decided to go ahead and do that with this one that you see here. It's $35 apparently, but I actually only paid $21 on sale. I printed it on my longer Orange 30 resin 3D printer. And here we have all the pieces printed. For the most part, I think they printed out pretty well. There are a few things, though, that I would like to talk about, a few issues that I ran into. One of them is this tether or rope that she has was difficult to print because it's so large, and in fact, it's kind of difficult to support as well. So I had to print it up on its end, kind of like that, I think, and it ended up not printing entirely. So we have a couple of pieces that are separate, and I'm going to have to figure out something to do with that. I don't really want to print it again because it took a long time, and it's kind of a waste because it's mostly just support materials. And the other thing is they all have these pegs, which are nice. They help the pieces, fit in the right place and orientation and so forth. But if you're not careful and you don't clean out the inside of here really good before you cure the parts, then you're not going to have them be able to fit properly in many cases. So I did run into that in a few cases. Let's see. I think this is the right leg here. Let's see. Yeah. So that one actually fits fine. But I had some issues where I had to, for example, I had to sort of break off part of this tab or this peg in order to get it to fit, just because I hadn't cleaned out the inside here of the arms quite well enough, and it didn't fit all the way on there without leaving a little bit of a gap, and I didn't really want that. Aside from that, though, I think it was pretty good print. You see it fits nicely there, and if you look at the head in particular, you can really see how nice this model is. And I'm excited to see what this will look like all assembled. Here we have the Oola statue all assembled, and with a little bit of this Tamiya model putty. Some people say Tamiya, but it's Japanese, so I'm going to say Tamiya. And, it wasn't too hard to fill in the gaps, but, it did require a couple of rounds of adding putty and sanding and so forth, especially here. I wanted to make sure they were nice and smooth. I hope we will find out, when I actually put on the primer coat, how well this actually turned out. I may have to go and do a little bit more putty. Usually, you can't really tell how good of a job you've done until you put on the primer, but hopefully we've covered up all of the gaps and seams and everything, and it'll look natural. As you may have noticed when you saw the preview of the model, it actually comes with a large base, and that's what this is. I printed this on my Creality CR10S4. This is a traditional resin printer. I did have to cut it up in a few pieces, and you can see the joins here just to get it to print optimally. But I decided in the end not to use this base. It's cool, and it shows, the grading over the Rancor pit and everything. But it's quite large, and I'm running really low on space for displaying things like this. So I decided not to use it after all. This is what the statue looks like on the base, just in case you're curious, though. I decided to instead design my own base, a very simple one, in Fusion 360. And that's what you see here. It's basically just a round base with some fillets on the side and a little bit of a raised platform in the center, kind of mimicking some bases I've seen for other collectibles. So when it came time to paint, I used a gray primer to just give it an undercoat, and I really should have used a white primer, but I didn't have any. Gray primer is kind of difficult to cover with yellowish green color. You have to use quite a few coats to really get a decent coverage there. And I have to apologize, actually. I really don't have any footage of me painting this thing except at the very, very beginning. I was kind of on the fence as to whether I would even make this into a video or if I would just keep this for myself. And I had decided basically to stop filming. And then it turned out well enough that I thought, well,
we'll go ahead and do a video of it anyway. This first coat, you can see what I'm talking about in terms of coverage. It just looks like hot garbage, but with a few coats, I was able to get decent coverage with it eventually. You know those tutorial videos or websites that show you how to draw something, and it's like draw 3 circles and then draw the rest of the owl? Well, this is kind of the paint the rest of the Oola stage of the video, I'm afraid. I hope you weren't counting on this for a step-by-step painting tutorial. Maybe I'll do that at some point. I find it really hard to film and paint at the same time, but I'm working on it. But in any case, this is how it turned out after quite a few hours of painting. Now, if you look at Oola in Return of the Jedi, I think she's actually a bit more of a yellowish green than what I have here, although it varies depending on what you're looking at. If it's a sort of a publicity still or something like that, or the actual film, it can change from a yellowish green to almost a pale green to something else. So in the end, I just decided to go with what seemed most attractive to me in person, which was this. One thing that I wasn't sure how to handle at first, but I think turned out relatively well, was the netting in her outfit. I started out by painting it green, and then I did sort of a black dry brush on top of it so that it looked like her green skin was showing through a loose net of her outfit there. I think it turned out relatively well. I was actually pretty pleased with how the base turned out as well. I barely did anything to try and finish it. I just sort of sanded it a tiny bit and sprayed it with a filler primer, and on the top it looks quite good, I think, actually. Very simple, but that's what I was going for. This model is also available all in one piece, in addition to the one that's all broken up into parts. So I decided to print that one at a smaller scale in green resin, and I think this came out really cool. This was printed on the Elegoo Mars with Elegoo's standard translucent green resin, and generally speaking came out really well. There's a little bit of scarring on her back there where the support material was, but aside from that, all the detail really cool, and it came out nice and translucent. I did spray it with a gloss coat after curing it just to help improve the translucency, but yeah, this was definitely a cool experiment. I hope you enjoyed this quick look at a project that I've been doing recently, and if you're interested in buying this model, there's a link in the video description. This video was made possible with the support of my patrons, including these Palace VIPs right here. If you'd like to help support me on Patreon, you can pledge as little as $1 a month to get access to some behind-the-scenes posts, early videos, and more. There's a link in the video description to my Patreon page, so check it out for more information. Thanks for watching!